So that's a really special song to me, and when I hear that song, it's kind of interesting that it's resonated throughout my life, because when I first learned that song, I was a chubby third grader in the chorister choir at First Reformed Church in Pella, and I was going through a pretty difficult time. My family had just moved, and for the first time in my life, I was thinking about how the grass was greener on the other side. And I spent a lot of time thinking about how green the grass was at the ball fields by Wholesome Cement Plant, or along the Winnebago River in East Park in Mason City where I'd walk with my grandfather, or on the playground with my friends. And I found myself for the first time in my life spending a lot of time looking backwards, thinking about the good old days. And when we think about greener grass and how the grass is greener on the other side, a lot of times we do that looking backwards, and sometimes we do that looking side to side. And another time in my life stands out where I think about just being a little bit bewildered. And I just arrived at college, and I remember very clearly coming out of orientation and going back to my room and sitting there and thinking about, I can't believe I went to a college at the end of the earth that I didn't take a visit to, that doesn't have my major. My girlfriend's 12 hours away. I remember pulling up my MySpace.com page, for those of you kids out there. You know, it's kind of like the Tickety Talk or the Snappity Gram or whatever you guys use today. But I remember looking at my MySpace top 8 friends and thinking, man, the grass seems a lot greener wherever they chose to go. And they seem to be having this great time, and they're all fitting in, and they're having just an incredible experience. And I'm here all alone by myself, looking around, feeling like the grass must be a little bit greener everywhere else. I also think we can do this looking forward. We get caught looking too far into the future. I remember when I finished college, I found myself in a dead-end job that I knew I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing in life, and felt really lost. And I would spend a lot of time, more time than I should probably admit, I would walk from my apartment down to the gas station, and I would buy Powerball tickets. And I would walk around the neighborhood and I would think about, man, when I hit the Powerball tonight, the grass is going to be a whole lot greener, and I'll be able to do the things I want to do, and I'll be able to have the opportunities I want to have, and things will be great. The grass will be so much greener on the other side. And I think no matter how we're looking at this, whether we're looking backwards or we're looking side to side or we're looking forward, the thing that we always need is an adjustment in perspective. And I go back to First Reformed Church in Pella, where my family, we were like soliciting churches. I don't know if you've ever moved to a new town. We were testing them all out, and we were going side to side. We showed up at First Reformed Church in Pella, and they said, all the third graders, come down front. I thought I was in for a heck of a children's sermon. And when I got up there, I realized I had made an incredible mistake. They were handing out engraved Bibles to all the third graders, and then I'm just there as they're handing them out to everybody else. And of course, they handled it beautifully, and they were like, come back next week, and we were stuck. We went there for years. And I did come back the next week, and they gave me my first Bible. And I've always been a big reader, and I think I felt some kind of sense of purpose. And I read that thing cover to cover like it was a Harry Potter novel. And one of the things that stood out to me and has continued to stand out to me that helps me adjust focus is Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. And I can say whether it's looking backwards or it's looking side to side or it's looking forward, those are words that have continued to resonate with me, where it's like when I was a third grader in a new town trying to figure out where I was going and what that road looked like for me, I just got really involved in trying to kind of just do good and do the right things and do the things that made me feel at home. Whether I used to ride my bike to the public library. Pella's not a very dangerous town. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's Disneyland for Dutch people. But I'd ride my bike to the library. My parents had grown up in Chicago. They thought this was the safest thing, and probably it was. And I would just go to the library every day, and I would read the Wall Street Journal, which made me great friends with the librarians because they thought I was the weirdest little kid in the world. But then I started to meet some other people, and I got involved playing sports, and school started, and I met some new friends and got involved in the choir at church, and all these different things where I felt like I was doing good and doing the things that make me me helped me readjust that focus and find that perspective. I also think about sitting in that room when I got to college, and I remember sitting there and I was doing math in my head because I was a broke college student, as some of you understand. Some of you have forgotten what that's like. But I remember sitting there trying to calculate if I had enough money in my bank account to fuel up the Dodge Stratus, hit Highway 94, and go back to where I'd come from. And finally, I called my dad on the phone, and my dad's kind of a tough love person. And I remember I was complaining to him about all this stuff, like, you know, I don't fit in here. I'm not even Catholic. All these Catholics everywhere. I don't understand these nuns. I don't understand any of this stuff that's going on. I don't like any of my classes. And I remember just very clearly, he told me, you know, if the grass is greener on the other side, you better get to work on your own damn yard. And then he hung up the phone. And I thought that was really powerful. And while I spent my time there, I again found myself back in the library reading. And one of the things that I did the first semester I was there, and I was in North Dakota, where Nolan will tell you Teddy Roosevelt looms larger than life. I read through the complete Teddy Roosevelt memoirs, like dozens of volumes. And one of the things that Teddy Roosevelt I talked about was you need to do what you can with what you have where you are. And I really took that to heart. And I think that's one of the things that shaped my identity from that period forward. I also spent a lot of time, coincidentally, with a Waldorf alumni on the basketball court. Randall Herbst's class of 1991, if you look him up in the yearbook, you can see that he has a black eye when he was Student Athlete of the Year because he had fought the quarterback on the football team the night before, which he's very proud of. It also made his words resonate maybe a little bit more, where he would constantly tell us, next play, and toughen up. I mean, all of the time. And what he meant by that was a lot of times, and if you've played sports or if you've just lived life, you understand that things aren't always going to go your way. You're not going to get the calls, or one of your teammates isn't going to be doing their part and pulling their weight, or coach is being hard on you and you don't see why. And I think like that next play mentality where the entire goal is to just focus on what's the next right thing you have to do? What's the next right move to make? What can you do to improve your situation? And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to be pretty tough. But it's all right. We're built for it, you know, light work. We'll be fine. Sometimes you got to turn those have-tos into get-tos. And that's one of the most transformative things I think you can have in life, where you can refocus your energy and go make the most of the opportunity, because it's like we take so much stuff for granted, especially the opportunities directly in front of us. Where I don't know how many of you, like, I'm not up here to tell you I'm some perfect person that, like, I wake up in the morning a lot of days and I'm like, oh, I have to. And I can tell you the list is long. Go in my office and look at the board. And when I can shift that into I get to be here with these students. I get to be here for my colleagues. I get to be here as a part of this community. That's one of the most transformative things on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes I think about that. It's not even a Christian proverb. I think about the Buddhist proverb, chop wood, carry water. You know, before enlightenment, one must chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, one must chop wood, carry water, because the work's always going to be there. And you got to find a way to embrace that. A lot of you know I'm a big Proverbs person, probably because when I was turning 13 years old, my dad said, you're going to be a man now. So we sat down and for a month we wrote down Proverbs every day for a month. It's good, there's 30 of them, you know, fits into the calendar. And then he told me what he thought about the advice I was getting from that book. And one of them still stands out to me. Well, it's two technically. Proverbs 4:25-26. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Chop wood, carry water. Find ways to see what those stairs look like directly in front of you, and focus instead on the entire staircase, on just what the next right thing you have to do is. And it's not going to be like easy most of the time. You get the opportunity to do it, and if you can have the right mindset, you can adjust your perspective. You won't be constantly caught in looking at how green the grass is on the other side in somebody else's lawn. As Dr. Bossert told me yesterday, it's probably just a septic tank anyway. And as I was coming to campus this morning, I decided I was just going to take a moment. I stopped at the Casey's down at the bottom of the hill, and I picked up a Powerball so we can, you know, when we hit it later, we'll build the Theron Anderson Athletic Center, and the grass will really be a little greener here. But I went out and I sat by the pond in the same way that I used to walk around the neighborhood and think about the opportunities I wish I had. And I can tell you the grass is pretty green right here. Pray with me. Grant us grace, O merciful God, to desire ardently all that is pleasing to thee. Help us examine it prudently, acknowledge it truthfully, and accomplish it perfectly, for the praise and glory of thy name. Amen. Let's get to work.